Today, there are more than 400,000 children in the U.S. foster care system. Children enter foster care by no fault of their own, but because they have experienced some threat to their health and safety, like abuse, neglect, or abandonment. In 2018, approximately 687,000 children were victims of abuse and neglect. In addition to abuse and neglect, there are cases where children are separated from their families due to the effects of racism and classism. Unfortunately, these structural inequalities are oftentimes painted as individual faults. Caregivers who simply cannot afford needed resources are vilified, becoming targets for child protective services. In fact, approximately 3/4 of substantiated child maltreatment cases are related to neglect. While the state may use the word neglect broadly, these cases typically center around deprivation of things like food, shelter, clothing, or medical treatment, almost always the result of poverty. The broad definition of neglect, combined with racial bias, produces a system full of children of color traumatized by family separation. In fact, there are currently more than 200,000 children of color in our foster care system. For context, Black children make up about 14% of children in the U.S., but they comprise 23% of children in foster care. While children are removed with the intention of eliminating neglect and abuse, too often they are subjected to similar forms of maltreatment in the child welfare system. Most foster youth lose any sense of stability as they are moved from one foster home to another, and some children remain in the system for several years or age out before they are ever adopted. This is Aiden, one of the 9 out of every 1,000 children in the United States determined to be victims of abuse or neglect. Like 2/3 of children in foster care, Aiden is a part of a sibling group. Aiden and his sister were removed from their mother after she was unable to pay a series of utility bills and could no longer afford groceries in their increasingly gentrified neighborhood. Despite the benefits of joint sibling placements, unfortunately Aiden and his sister were separated from each other, similar to more than 70% of children with siblings in the foster care system. Like other children in foster care, it is expected that Aiden will have only a 50% likelihood of graduating from high school and just a 15% likelihood of attending college. He is also more likely to develop mental illnesses such as depression, PTSD, and anxiety, and to engage in high-risk behaviors. If Aiden is to remain in the system until he ages out, he is at a higher risk of facing homelessness. This is Amira, Aiden's younger sister. She is diagnosed with a learning disability and is thus part of an incredibly vulnerable population, overrepresented in foster care. Disabled youth in foster care, like Amira, are more likely to be placed in institutional settings and are less likely to experience reunification, kinship care, permanency, or adoption. Like other children with disabilities in foster care, Amira is more likely to experience maltreatment than other foster youth, increasing the likelihood that she will develop a mental illness. She is also expected to achieve lower employment and education levels and less economic stability, despite more frequent involvement with other service systems like disability services and special education. Aiden and Amira's future may seem rather bleak, but there are ways that we can support them and other foster youth to achieve their fullest potential. First and foremost, agencies should look to support families in remaining together. This may look like assistance in obtaining resources like food, shelter, clothing, or grants to access similar resources. Respite care can also be an incredibly valuable resource for biological and adoptive families alike. A respite parent cares for a child whose foster family or biological family is in need of a break. It offers family support and helps prevent burnout, especially in overwhelming circumstances. When a child like Aiden or Amira is separated from their biological family, the first priority should be reunification. Reunification with a child's birth family allows them to return to an environment with routines, traditions, and a culture that they are familiar with. When a child is placed in a completely new environment, they are likely not to feel a sense of belonging. Reunification addresses this concern while reducing stress for the child. It is a second chance for the entire family to thrive, allowing parents the chance to heal and improve while being held accountable. If reunification is not possible, agencies should prioritize kinship care. Kinship parents are those who have a direct connection to the child. This form of care is especially vital because compared to children in non-kin foster care, children in kinship foster care experience fewer school changes, have better mental and behavioral outcomes, and are more likely to keep connections with family. Of equal importance, foster care agencies must practice trauma-informed care, prioritizing children's mental health. Trauma-informed care is a treatment model that involves understanding, recognizing, and responding to the effects of trauma. It prioritizes physical, psychological, and emotional safety, providing for the safety and well-being of children and families, as well as employees and community partners. Foster and adoptive families should also be educated on issues impacting children with a history of trauma. Along with training, ongoing support should be provided to families to ensure permanency. Children with disabilities, like Amira, need additional support in the form of therapeutic foster care. This allows children to be matched with specially trained foster parents who are better suited to meet their needs. Agencies can aid therapeutic family placements by providing access to 24/7 available support. In cases where adoption is not possible, foster parents should prioritize transitioning youth to adulthood. With agency support, foster parents can facilitate opportunities by meeting with guidance counselors about future opportunities. Agencies should aim to equip foster youth with the tools for success, offering assistance in the job search and sharing college resources. While Aiden and Amira are at a disadvantage as foster youth, agencies should encourage them to aim high while providing them with the appropriate support. Ultimately, like any other child, foster youth need love and stability. While we have discussed many important issues and responses, we have only briefly outlined the complexities of the U.S. foster care system. For additional information, visit any of the following resources.